At the Eden Park HOA meeting, my father worked the room with his model family smile, shaking hands. The votes were announced. My stepmother was the new president. 7 seconds later, she swung the minute book into my face, all of it captured on a dozen smart doorbell cameras. What no one knew was that I had brought a file thick enough to shatter every single one of my father's pretty handshakes, and I was the head of compliance for their management company. My name is Rhea Calder. I am 29 years old, and tonight, I am an instrument of consequence. The Eden Park community room smells of failure. It's a cheap, cloying perfume of stale coffee that's been sitting on a hot plate for 3 hours and the sharp, chemical tang of industrial-grade carpet shampoo. The nylon fibers under my sensible heels are still faintly damp. Overhead, a grid of fluorescent lights hums with a sound like a trapped insect, casting a sterile, unflattering glare on the 20 or so assembled homeowners. The light makes the water stains on the acoustic ceiling tiles look like pale, spreading bruises. Everything in this room is a cheap substitute for something real. The wood grain laminate on the folding tables, the plastic chairs that squeak with every shift in weight, the silk ficus tree in the corner, gathering a fine layer of dust. It is a room designed for hollow pronouncements and petty grievances, the perfect stage for the charade about to unfold. I sit in the front row, a fixed point in a room of nervous energy. My back is straight, my posture a declaration of intent. Earlier, I clipped a small lavalier microphone to the lapel of my blazer. The cool metal was a small, anchoring point of contact against my skin. It isn't for the room's terrible PA system, it's for my own recording, a clean audio file to sync with the video I know is coming. My eyes are locked on the large whiteboard propped on an easel at the front of the room. The HOA secretary, a nervous woman named Mrs. Gable, whose hands tremble slightly, is drawing a final tick mark with a black dry erase marker. It makes a sharp, definitive squeak. To everyone else, it's just a vote count. To me, it's the last number in a combination lock. My briefcase sits at my feet. It feels heavier than its contents would suggest. Inside, the neatly tabbed folders are not just paper, they are anchors, weights I will use to drag a rotten vessel to the bottom. I control my breathing, a slow, measured inhale through the nose, a silent exhale through the mouth. This is a compliance audit, I tell myself, not a family reunion. Treat it as such. My father, Nolan Calder, does not sit. He glides. He moves through the rows of chairs like he's working a room at a political fundraiser. Which, in a way, he is. He has all polished shoes, a perfectly tailored suit, and a smile that could sell sand in a desert. His silver hair catches the harsh light, making him look distinguished, trustworthy. He stops to shake a hand here, clap a shoulder there. I watch him approach his backyard team, as I call them. There's Carter Hume, a perpetually sweating man whose lawn is a mess of weeds and who owes 18 months of HOA fees. Nolan's handshake with him is firm, reassuring. Then he moves to the Millers, who painted their fence a shade of beige that is explicitly, aggressively not on the approved palette, an act of defiance that should have cost them thousands in fines. Nolan shares a quiet laugh with them. They are his loyalists, his subjects, bought not with money, but with immunity from the very rules he is here to see enforced. They are votes secured through negligence, an asset on his shadow ledger. He is building his little kingdom on a foundation of waived fees and strategic blindness. He never looks at me, not once, to him, in this room. I am not his daughter. I am a variable, an obstacle to be managed. Mrs. Gable clears her throat, the sound amplified into a nervous pop by the microphone on the lectern. The final tally is complete, she announces, her voice thin. The room holds its breath. The hum of the fluorescent lights seems to grow louder, filling the space. With a vote of 5-4, the new chair of the Eden Park Homeowners Association is Vivian Locke. The applause is a pathetic, fluttering sound. It's like a handful of dry leaves skittering across pavement. It's too sparse, too hesitant, and it dies almost immediately, leaving a vacuum of awkward silence in its wake. Vivian, My stepmother stands up. She is wearing a cream-colored pantsuit, an immaculate uniform of suburban power. Her blonde hair is perfectly styled. She smooths the front of her jacket, a small, triumphant gesture. She is everything my mother was not: sharp, angular, and utterly transactional. This is the moment. The final piece clicks into place. Before Vivian can take the lectern, before the fragile illusion of a legitimate process can solidify, I move. The scrape of my chair legs against the linoleum floor is unnaturally loud in the quiet room. I stand. Every head swivels in my direction. I feel their eyes on me, a weight of curiosity and suspicion. Nolan's smile tightens by a fraction of a millimeter. "Mr. Secretary, Mrs. Gable," I say, my voice steady and clear, devoid of emotion. "Rhea Calder, homeowner at 1123 Birchway. Before we proceed with the transition, I would like to request the floor on a point of order regarding the established audit protocol for the community maintenance and reserve funds." The air crackles. The word audit hangs there, ugly and unwelcome. I see confusion on some faces, and on the faces of the backyard team, a flicker of alarm. Vivian turns to face me. Her smile is a thin, red slash. She doesn't wait for the secretary to recognize me. She takes 2 sharp, clicking steps in my direction, closing the distance between us. Her perfume, something expensive and floral, precedes her. "This girl," she says, her voice dripping with condescending amusement, directed at the room but meant for me. She has always been obsessed with numbers. Can't see the community for the spreadsheets. She is 3 feet away now. I can see the fine lines around her eyes, the hard set of her jaw beneath the practiced smile. She is still holding the official HOA Minute book, a thick 3-ring binder with a faux leather cover. "It's just a procedural question, Vivian," I state, keeping my voice level. "We are done with procedure for tonight, dear," she clips, her eyes flashing. Then she moves. It's a blur of cream-colored fabric and sudden, shocking violence. She raises the binder, her arm a piston of stored rage, and swings it. The world narrows to a single point of impact. The hard-wool plastic edge of the binder connects with my right cheekbone. The sound is a sickening thud, a wet, solid crack that seems to echo in the silent room. A flash of white light explodes behind my eyes. My head snaps to the side, my hair whipping across my face. For a half second, there is no pain, only a profound, ringing shock. Then the fire ignites, a hot, radiating agony that spreads from my cheek across my entire skull. The room is utterly, completely still. No one breathes, no one moves. The only sound is the relentless, mechanical hum of the air conditioning unit, cycling air that has suddenly become thick and heavy. Through the glass panel of the community room door, I can see the hallway. I can see the small, circular smart doorbell of the unit across the way. Its little blue ring is glowing softly. A silent, impartial eye. Recording. The metallic taste of blood fills my mouth. It's warm and coppery. I feel a thin trickle run down the inside of my cheek from where my teeth cut the flesh. I don't raise a hand to my face. I don't cry out. I turn my head back slowly, deliberately, and fix my eyes on Vivian. Her chest is heaving slightly, her face a mask of triumphant fury. I swallow. The act is painful, forcing the blood down my throat. I keep my voice low, precise, each word a carefully placed stone. "Those minutes," I say, my voice raspy but controlled, "are community property. That binder is now evidence for the court." Out of the corner of my eye, I see movement. The 2 part-time security guards hired for the meeting, a pair of bored-looking men in ill-fitting blazers, finally react. They start to move forward, their expressions a mixture of shock and professional obligation. One of them puts a hand out, as if to calm the situation. "Ma'am, let's just," he begins. I don't look at him. I don't break eye contact with Vivian. With my left hand, I reach down to my briefcase, flick the latches open, and pull out a single, folded document. My movements are unhurried, economical. I open the document with a sharp snap of my wrist. "That won't be necessary," I say, my voice cutting through the guard's attempt at intervention. I hold up the paper. The raised seal of the Halcyon County District Court is clearly visible under the fluorescent lights. The signature at the bottom, rendered in bold blue ink, is still fresh. This is a temporary restraining order and a directive for the preservation of all records, financial and otherwise, pertaining to the Eden Park HOA. It was signed by Judge Miller at 4 p.m. this afternoon. You will not touch me, and you will not touch a single piece of paper in this room. The guards freeze. They are not lawyers, but they recognize the power of that seal. They look from the paper in my hand to my face, to the angry red welt already beginning to form on my cheek. They take a half step back, defeated. A wave of movement ripples through the room as every single gaze, every ounce of attention, shifts. First, they all stare at me, this bleeding, defiant woman holding a court order. Then, as if pulled by a string, their eyes swing to Vivian. The color has drained from her face, leaving only her bright red lipstick. Stark and garish, the rage has been replaced by the first, cold tendrils of panic. And then, finally, their eyes move to my father. He is in the same spot he was when the vote was announced. He hasn't moved an inch. He is watching the entire scene unfold, a spectator at his own daughter's assault, and he is still smiling. The smile hasn't wavered. It's a calm, placid, terrifyingly serene expression. It's not the smile of a proud father or a concerned husband. It's the smile of a man who has anticipated all the moves on the board, who enjoys the chaos, and who believes, with absolute certainty, that he still holds the winning hand. It is the smile of a monster. My cheekbone throbs with a rhythm that matches the hum of the fluorescent lights overhead. The pain is a grounding force, a hot, sharp anchor in the suspended reality of this room. I stare at my father, at the serene, chilling smile plastered on his face, and the cheap artifice of the Eden Park community room dissolves, replaced by the glossy, high-definition lie that brought us all here. Eden Park doesn't sell houses. It sells a fantasy packaged in a 12-page, full-color brochure. I know the text by heart, the way a zealot knows scripture. Discover Eden Park, where community takes root. The cover features a stock photo family, impossibly happy, laughing on a lawn so green it looks radioactive. Inside, the promises spill out in a crisp, sans-serif font. They boast of a man-made lake, a mirror to the tranquil sky, conveniently omitting that the tranquility is maintained by quarterly infusions of algaecide that make the water toxic to everything but the plastic ducks for the annual regatta. They rave about the stately ruler-straight rows of mature maple trees, neglecting to mention that the developer planted them too close together, and their roots are now systematically destroying the sidewalks, creating a suburb-wide tripping hazard. It's a paradise built on meticulously managed appearances, and I live at its rotten core. The rot, for me, truly set in 2 years ago. The flashback isn't hazy. It's a series of sharp, digital snapshots. My father's backyard, the site of his wedding to Vivian. It was a masterclass in performative joy. Guests sipped Prosecco under a rented white tent. Paper confetti, not rice, was thrown, because it was biodegradable and better for the optics. I remember the feel of it, flimsy and damp, sticking to the soles of my shoes. Friends of my father, men I'd known my whole life, clapped him on the back and offered booming congratulations on his blended family. They looked at me with pitying eyes, the orphan daughter gaining a new mother, Vivian, radiant in a champagne-colored dress that was elegant and predatory, accepted their good wishes with a smile that never quite reached her eyes. When she shook my hand, her grip was like a banker's, firm and appraising. This wasn't a marriage, it was a merger. Nolan Calder, with his deep-rooted social capital in the community, and Vivian Locke, with her insatiable ambition and sharp strategic mind. They were a formidable holding company. Vivian wasted no time. A lesser operator would have waited. Feigning a period of adjustment, Vivian dove in headfirst. Within a month of moving in, She had a seat on the architectural committee. It was the perfect entry point, a place to wield petty power and build alliances. Mrs. Henderson's requested porch swing was denied for being historically incongruous, while the Millers' glaringly non-compliant fence was approved with a quiet, unminuted vote. Vivian learned the rulebook not to enforce it, but to know exactly how to weaponize it. After 6 months of terrorizing homeowners over mailbox heights and shrubbery placement, she made her calculated jump to the finance committee. That's where the real levers of power were, not in aesthetics, but in the quiet, unscrutinized flow of money. I saw it happening. I saw the chess pieces moving across the board, so I made my own move. I bought the small, unremarkable townhouse at the end of Birchway, the one whose back windows faced the woods instead of another home. It's a fantastic investment, Dad, I told him over a lunch that felt more like a deposition, and the commute to the office will be a breeze. He'd beamed, pleased with my sensible, boring choice. He had no idea my new home was a listening post. My job, my real job, was just a convenient excuse. I didn't move here to be closer to work. I moved here to be closer to his work, to the slow, creeping corruption I could smell like gas leaking from a cracked pipe. The evidence started as a series of small, almost laughable infractions, the kind of neighborhood drama that fuels online forums. The Miller's fence, painted a defiant eggshell cream, instead of the mandated Dover white, stood as a monument to their loyalty. I watched as 3 violation notices were issued, and 3 times. Vivian had them dismissed at the monthly meetings, citing clerical errors or lost paperwork. Carter Hume, the man who owed nearly 2 years of dues, suddenly had his debt restructured into a community service arrangement, the details of which were never made public. Small favors, untraceable loyalties. The foundation of their regime was built on 100 tiny acts of selective enforcement. Then the numbers started to get bigger. 9 months ago, at a quarterly budget meeting, Vivian stood at the very lectern she now covets and proposed a 38% increase to the landscaping contract. 38%. Due to unforeseen inflationary pressures and significant supply chain disruptions, she'd said, the corporate jargon rolling off her tongue. A few residents murmured, but no one challenged her. Who wants to be the person arguing about the price of mulch? But I knew. I work with these contracts every day. Fuel costs had risen. Yes, labor, maybe a little. But 38%? That wasn't inflation. That was a line item for theft. Their confidence grew into arrogance. They stopped hiding. Most nights, around 9, I'd put on my running shoes and take a slow lap around the neighborhood. It was a parody of a calming suburban ritual. I'd see them gather at Carter Hume's house. His was the only one with a front-facing garage. One by one, the cars would pull up, the Miller's minivan, another board member's SUV. They would slip inside the side door, and a moment later, the main garage door would rumble shut, sealing them inside. A secret society of suburban grifters, plotting their next move under the glow of a bare light bulb, surrounded by lawn equipment and cardboard boxes. People like my father, people who trade on a firm handshake and a sincere-looking smile, are the reason I trust paper. My mother was a gentle, trusting woman. She believed in the best version of people, especially the best version of Nolan Calder. She believed his promises, his reassurances, his pats on the shoulder. After she died, I was left to navigate the chasm between his words and his actions. I was 16 when I learned that the only thing you can truly rely on is what is written down, signed, and notarized. A contract doesn't forget, an invoice doesn't lie about where it's been, a bank statement doesn't have feelings, paper is honest. My supposed obsession with numbers isn't a personality quirk. It's a survival mechanism forged in the quiet grief of learning my father was a beautiful, hollow man. My life became a study in contrasts. By day, I was Rhea Calder, head of compliance for Garrison Vale Management. The firm contracted to manage Eden Park and 24 other communities like it. I audited their books, flagged their procedural errors, and wrote stern letters about their mismanaged reserve funds. I was good at my job. respected for my precision and impartiality. By night, I was a ghost haunting my own neighborhood. My evening jogs were surveillance runs. I carried a small, black, pocket-sized notebook. In it, I logged the license plates of unfamiliar work trucks, the times they entered and exited, the logos on their doors. I was conducting a forensic audit of my own life, one observation at a time. And that's when I first saw it. The truck was an old Ford, its white paint chipped and flecked with rust. But the logo on the door was new, a professionally designed decal of a bright, cheerful flower. It was a marigold, rendered in vibrant orange and yellow. Beneath it, the name, Marigold Services. The name was so cloyingly pleasant, so aggressively wholesome. It sounded like a company that would be run by your sweet old aunt. A name as pretty and as deceptive as a pitcher plant. Marigold Services. They were the company that had won the landscaping contract with the 38% price hike. I started seeing their trucks everywhere, at all hours, sometimes for mowing, yes, but other times parked by the lake at 10 p.m. or idling by the community clubhouse long after dark. Their presence felt wrong, an infestation hiding behind a pretty, floral logo. That name, Marigold, became a splinter in my mind. It was the loose thread. And standing here now, with the taste of my own blood in my mouth and the image of my father's smile burned into my retinas, I know that all I ever had to do was pull on it and watch his whole perfect, rotten world unravel. The world inside the four walls of my office at Garrison Vale Management is a sanctuary of order. The air is cool and sterile, filtered and silent save for the quiet hum of my computer tower and the soft click of my keyboard. My desk is a large, clean expanse of dark wood, occupied only by two widescreen monitors, a keyboard, a mouse, and a single, perfectly centered coaster for my water glass. There are no photos, no personal effects. This is my domain, a place where rules are absolute and data is king. Here, I am not a daughter. I am the head of compliance. My job is to be the immune system for the communities we manage, to identify and neutralize the cancers of mismanagement and fraud. The irony is a blade I have swallowed and learned to live with. I am the chief enforcer of the rules for the very community where my own family is the chief pathogen. Our corporate Bible is the Garrison Vale Procurement Protocol, a document I co-authored. It is a dense, 90-page treatise on fiscal responsibility, but it can be distilled to one immutable commandment. Section 4, Subsection B, Paragraph 3. For any single vendor contract, service, or purchase order with a projected annual cost exceeding $25,000, a minimum of three competitive bids from qualified, non-affiliated vendors must be solicited and documented prior to execution. It is not a suggestion, it is a firewall. Designed with the explicit purpose of preventing the kind of cozy, self-serving deals that bleed a community's reserve fund dry. It is the bedrock of ethical management. 3 weeks ago, the Eden Park quarterly expense packet landed in my digital queue. It's usually a routine review, a 20-minute rubber stamping of lawn care and pool services. I opened the primary PDF, a scanned document compiled by the HOA's treasurer and signed off on by Vivian, in her capacity as chair of the Finance Committee. My eyes scanned the expense summary, and there it was. Landscaping Services, Marigold Services, annual contract value, $182,400. My fingers froze over the mouse. The number was astronomical, far exceeding the $25,000 threshold. I clicked through to the supporting documents, expecting to see the 3 required bid sheets. There was only one. A single cleanly typed quote from Marigold Services. The other 2 pages, the slots for the competitive bids, were absent. In their place was a scanned handwritten note on Eden Park letterhead. The handwriting was Vivian's, a sharp, aggressive cursive. Marigold has been our trusted vendor for several months now, consistently exceeding expectations. Board has moved to formalize the long-term contract. bypassing additional bids for expediency. It was a lie wrapped in a procedural violation. They hadn't been a vendor for months, and expediency was not a valid reason to bypass corporate protocol. It was a flagrant, arrogant breach. The professional in me felt a surge of cold fury. The daughter in me felt the floor drop out. This was it. The collision point. My two lives, so carefully compartmentalized, had just fused into a single, ugly wreck on my monitor. My hands moved with practiced efficiency. The professional took over, a necessary anesthetic for the daughter who was reeling. I minimized the Eden Park file and opened a separate browser window, accessing a national corporate registry database. I typed Marigold Services into the search field. The results were instantaneous. Marigold Services, LLC, date of incorporation, 10 months ago. State of registration, Wyoming. My eyebrows raised. Wyoming is a favorite for those who value anonymity, a corporate black hole where ownership can be easily obscured, but they had to list a registered agent, a name. My eyes scanned the entry. Representative, E. Locke. Locke. The name hit me like a physical blow. It was Vivian's maiden name. I felt a tremor start in my hands, a fine, barely controlled shaking. I ran a quick parallel search. Vivian's full legal name, Elizabeth Vivian Locke, E. Locke. It wasn't just a smoking gun. It was a signed, notarized confession executed by a shell corporation. Vivian hadn't just steered a ridiculously overpriced contract to a preferred vendor. She had steered it to herself. My training kicked in, a series of cold, logical steps. I navigated to our internal compliance software, a secure system firewalled from the rest of the company network. New case file. Client. Eden Park. HOA. Subject. Procurement violation. I began to type, the words appearing on the screen. Stark and clinical. Initial review of Q3 expense packet reveals a single-source contract awarded to Marigold Services for $180,400 in direct violation of GVM Protocol 4.B3. Preliminary investigation of vendor entity reveals a Wyoming-based LLC with a registered agent. E. Locke, matching the maiden name of the current HOA finance chair. Vivian Locke. I paused, my cursor blinking. Then I added the flags, the official damning classifications, potential conflict of interest, suspected contract laundering. The terms were sterile, but their meaning was filthy. I was formally accusing my stepmother of using her position to embezzle nearly $200,000 of her neighbor's money. I clicked Submit. The case file, designated CM 2025-41B, was now active. A declaration of war, filed in triplicate. 2 days later, my phone buzzed on the silent, polished surface of my desk. The screen lit up. A text message. From Dad. My throat tightened. Hey, kiddo. Heard from Vivian you were asking some questions about the landscaping stuff. Don't make a big deal out of it. It's all just boring paperwork. A real hassle. Kiddo. He hadn't called me that in years. It was a calculated endearment. A tool to infantilize me. To remind me of a time when I believed his smiles were real. And hassle. The casual, dismissive word choice was so deliberate, framing felony fraud as a minor inconvenience, like taking out the trash. He knew. Of course he knew. His fingerprints weren't on the documents, but his approval was the ink in Vivian's pen. I stared at the message, the blue light of the screen feeling cold on my face. The daughter wanted to scream, to type out a torrent of rage and betrayal. The compliance officer knew that every communication was now potential evidence. My fingers moved, typing a single, cold, precise sentence, a sentence that was both a daughter's accusation and a professional's warning. Hassle is the word people use when they're afraid of their own signature. I hit send. He didn't reply. The text message was a catalyst. This was no longer just a financial investigation. It was a counter-operation. I used my top-tier administrative privileges to access the raw data feeds from the Eden Park community systems, not the summaries Vivian sent, but the source logs. I started with the RFID gate access system. I filtered the logs for all entries and exits by vendor code Marigold SVCS. The screen populated with data points, timestamps, gate numbers, vehicle IDs. Most were during the day, as expected, but then I found them. A pattern of anomalies. An entry at 10:43 p.m. on a Tuesday, the guard's log note, emergency pool chemical service. Another at 11:15 p.m. on a Friday, log note, late night irrigation system check. Lies. You don't service an irrigation system in the dark, and there's no such thing as an emergency pool treatment that can't wait until morning. I cross-referenced the dates of these late-night entries with the invoices Marigold had submitted. There they were, line items for hundreds of gallons of industrial-grade chlorine, bills for premium algaecide and phosphate removers, quantities sufficient to sanitize a small reservoir, not a suburban swimming pool. The pool at Eden Park had never looked better, a pristine, almost unnatural shade of blue. But the chemical expenses had more than doubled in the last 6 months. They weren't just padding the contract, they were using these nocturnal visits to justify fraudulent billing for materials they never used and services they never rendered. I had enough, more than enough. Following procedure, I filed a formal request to be added to the agenda of the next scheduled HOA board meeting. My stated purpose was innocuous, bureaucratic: to lead a discussion and training session on GVM's mandatory procurement protocols to ensure full compliance and fiscal transparency. It was a shot across the bow, a warning that I was coming, and I was bringing the rulebook with me. They didn't wait. 48 hours after my request was logged, an official email blast was sent to all Eden Park residents. The subject line was urgent. Notice of special meeting for the election of a new board chair. The current chair was stepping down for personal reasons. The meeting was scheduled for the evening of October 17th, the exact day before the meeting at which I was scheduled to speak. It was a blatant, desperate power grab, a move to install Vivian as the unassailable chair, giving her the power to control the agenda, to strike my presentation, to silence me before I could even begin. They knew I had found the thread. This was their attempt to wrench it out of my hands. But all they did was confirm the stakes and turn a quiet audit into an open war, leading us all to this room, to the taste of blood and the cold, unwavering smile of my father. The 15 minutes before the meeting begins are a specific kind of purgatory. It's a low-ceilinged, beige-carpeted limbo filled with the shuffling of feet, the forced murmur of neighborly small talk, and the scrape of cheap plastic chairs being rearranged. I remain seated in the front row, a still island in a river of anxious anticipation. I am a predator, and the first rule of a successful hunt is patience. I watch them all. My future character witnesses, my future collateral damage. They are just people, worried about their property values and the neighbor's barking dog, entirely unaware they are extras in a corporate thriller. Then I see him. Carter Hume. He's standing near the coffee station, looking even more uncomfortable than usual. His suit is a size too small, pinching at the shoulders, and a line of sweat beads on his upper lip despite the aggressive air conditioning. He clutches a paper cup of coffee he has no intention of drinking. He is a man waiting for a signal. My father provides it. Nolan detaches himself from a conversation with the Millers, all smiles and easy charm, and begins to move through the room. His path is not direct. It's a meandering, calculated trajectory designed to look casual. He's a shark that has mastered the art of swimming like a dolphin. He finally arrives at the coffee station, turning his back to the majority of the room, creating a small, temporary pocket of privacy. He pretends to study the selection of powdered creamers as Carter Hume shifts his weight from one foot to the other. This is the moment. I raise my phone, keeping it low, the screen angled as if I'm checking an email. Nolan turns to Carter. He extends a hand. It's the classic Nolan Calder maneuver, the politician's handshake, firm, confident, one hand enveloping the other while the second hand comes up to clasp the forearm, a gesture meant to convey sincerity, strength, and a deep, personal connection. It's a complete and utter fraud. I watch my father's thumb press into the soft flesh of Carter's arm, I see Carter's eyes dart around the room before settling on my father's face, his expression a desperate cocktail of hope and fear. The handshake is a contract, a physical act of sealing a dirty agreement. It's like watching someone step on a fresh piece of chewing gum. You see the moment of contact, the yielding press, the immediate, ugly adhesion. You know that for the rest of the day, that person will carry a piece of filth with them, a sticky, persistent residue of their poor judgment. This handshake is that piece of gum, and both men are now permanently sullied by it. As my father holds the handshake a beat too long, Carter's other hand moves. It's a clumsy, nervous gesture. He reaches into the inner pocket of his own jacket and pulls out a thin white business envelope. For a fraction of a second, it's visible. I see the embossed logo in the corner, dark blue ink on crisp white paper, a stylized set of scales, with the words, Hume and Fielding, attorneys at law underneath. It's his family's law firm, the one his father started, and he is now running into the ground. With a movement so swift it's almost imperceptible to the casual eye. Carter slips the envelope into the outer pocket of my father's suit jacket. My father doesn't flinch. He doesn't look down. He just tightens his grip on Carter's arm. A silent acknowledgement of receipt. The transfer takes less than a second. A bribe, a payment, a retainer for services of corruption. It doesn't matter what it is. It is a physical manifestation of the rot. 3 steps to their left, beside the dusty silk ficus tree, stands Vivian. She is the picture of disinterest. Her back is mostly to them, and she's staring intently at her phone, scrolling with one thumb. She doesn't look up, not even a flicker of a glance in their direction, but she is not as calm as she pretends. Her left hand, the one not holding the phone, is resting on her hip, and her fingers are drumming a frantic, silent rhythm against the hard plastic of her phone case. Tap, 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 tap. It's the only part of her that's telling the truth. A frantic Morse code of complicity and nerves. My thumb finds the button on the side of my phone. The camera makes no sound, but I feel the slight vibration as it captures the image. My father's hand still on Carter Hume's arm. Carter's hand just retreating from my father's jacket. Vivian, a still, tense silhouette in the background. It's not a photograph I will ever leak to the press. It's not evidence in the traditional sense. It's for me. It is my own private monument to the exact moment my father made his final, irrevocable choice. The moment he traded his daughter for a man who can't pay his bills in a thin white envelope. The handshake breaks. Carter Hume looks visibly relieved, as if a great weight has been lifted. He gives a jerky nod and scuttles away toward the back of the room. My father turns, his public smile sliding back into place as if it never left, and his eyes land directly on me. He knows I saw. He walks toward me, his stride smooth and unhurried. He stops in front of my chair, forcing me to look up at him. He leans down, bringing his face close to mine, the scent of his expensive cologne a suffocating cloud. He is still smiling. Family first, Rhea, he whispers. The words meant only for me, a soft, venomous caress. It's the family motto. The line he used my whole life to justify everything from missing my school plays for a business dinner to demanding my absolute, unquestioning loyalty now. I don't break eye contact. I can feel the heat from my own anger. A cold, controlled burn. Family first, I whisper back, my voice low and hard. Or does the law only apply to other people's families? His smile flickers. For the first time, I see a crack in the facade, a flash of genuine anger in his eyes. Before he can respond, a shadow falls over us. Vivian has materialized at his side, her phone now tucked away. Her presence is a drop in temperature. The more you dig, she murmurs, her voice a silken threat, the more you're going to lose. She isn't talking about the investigation. She's talking about him. She's telling me I will lose my father. A bitter laugh almost escapes my lips. I swallow it down and replace it with something colder. Something harder. Vivian, I reply, my voice barely audible. The only thing I have left to lose is an illusion. Her eyes narrow. She knows I mean it. They have no leverage. The emotional blackmail account is overdrawn. All homeowners, please take your seats. Mrs. Gable's reedy voice announces from the lectern. The special meeting will now come to order. The spell is broken. My father straightens up, the charming mask firmly back in place. He gives me a look that is part warning, part disappointment, and walks to a seat beside Vivian. That handshake, that final, public declaration of family first, feels like the slow, deliberate pull of a zipper on a bulletproof vest. The deal is sealed. The armor is in place. They believe they are invulnerable. They are wrong. As I watch Vivian take her seat, a smug, proprietary air about her, I understand everything with a chilling clarity. The battle lines were not drawn when I filed my report. They were not drawn when Vivian sent the notice for this sham election. They were drawn just now, in a quiet corner of this room, with a sweaty handshake and a hidden envelope. The whole meeting, the votes, all of it is just theater to ratify a decision that has already been bought and paid for. And as the votes are counted minutes later, and Vivian's name is announced, I know with absolute certainty what is coming next. The swing of the binder is not an act of spontaneous rage. It is the punctuation mark on the sentence that began with that handshake. It is the final, violent closing of a deal, a desperate attempt to beat back the truth with brute force. It is the last hit of a cornered animal, and it solidifies the war they just declared. The meeting doesn't end. It shatters. It disintegrates into a cloud of panicked whispers, shocked gasps, and the shuffling of feet as people either rush for the exits or cluster into small, bewildered groups. The court order in my hand acts as a shield. Parting the sea of bodies, I don't look at Vivian, whose face is a frozen mask of disbelief. I don't look at my father, whose chilling smile has finally, mercifully, vanished, replaced by a cold, calculating blankness. My focus is singular. The mission has commenced. The blowback is now in motion. My cheek is on fire, a deep, pulsating ache that radiates from the bone, but my mind is ice as I walk out of the community room and into the humid night air. The plan is not forming. It has already formed. It unspools in my head not as a series of ideas, but as a sequence of operations, a checklist for a controlled demolition, each step silent and precise. Phase 1. Secure the battlefield. Before my car door is even fully open, my phone is in my hand. My thumb moves across the screen, tapping out a new email. My fingers are steady. The pain in my face is a clarifying agent, burning away all hesitation. 2. Eden Park Board of Directors. Interim. Security Subcommittee. CC. Legal Department. Garrison Vale Management. Subject. Urgent. Official request for preservation of evidence. Incident on October 17. Pursuant to the events of the special meeting held this evening, I am formally requesting the immediate preservation of all security footage from all community-owned cameras, specifically including the main entrance camera and any cameras with a view of the community room exterior and hallway. As you know, an act of physical violence occurred, constituting a direct violation of Eden Park bylaws. Article 7, Section 4. Code of Conduct. This footage is now material evidence in a pending legal matter. Please confirm receipt and provide details on the chain of custody for the digital files within 12 hours. Failure to comply will be considered an act of evidence tampering. Rhea Calder. I hit send. The first domino has been pushed. The silent digital witness has been subpoenaed. Phase 2. Armament and munitions. Back in my townhouse, the silence is a welcome contrast to the chaos of the meeting. I don't bother with the lights. The glow from my dual monitors is all I need. I sit at my desk and pull up the Garrison Vale internal network. Operation 2 is about overwhelming them with their own paperwork. I draft the official homeowner records request form. My request is brutally specific. A complete and unredacted record of all invoices, payment authorizations, and communications related to the vendor known as Marigold Services from its initial engagement to the present date. This request includes not only the PDF summaries previously submitted, but also the native source files for all financial spreadsheets in XLSX format and proposals in MODOSX format. Furthermore, I require the full, unstripped metadata for each of these files, including but not limited to author, creation date, and last modified date. This is the kill shot in a white-collar war. PDFs can be doctored, spreadsheets can be manipulated, but metadata is a digital fingerprint. It tells the true story. A bid from a competing company that was created on Vivian's laptop 5 minutes before the Marigold bid is not a competitor. It's an alibi. I submit the form. A digital missile launched into their server. They have 30 days to respond by law. I know I don't have 30 days. This is just to legally establish their non-compliance when they inevitably refuse. Phase 3. Strategic insulation. My next move is internal. It is the most critical from a career perspective. I cannot allow this to be framed as a personal vendetta, a messy family drama spilling into the workplace. I compose a new memorandum, this one addressed to the highest authority within my own company, the Garrison Vale Ethics Committee. I am formally escalating case file CM 2025-41B for your immediate review. As head of compliance, it is my duty to self-report a significant and unavoidable personal conflict of interest in this matter. The subject of the conflict of interest investigation, Vivian Locke, is my stepmother. The complicit board, which my preliminary findings suggest has acted with gross negligence, is presided over by my father, Nolan Calder. To ensure the integrity of the investigation and to protect both myself and Garrison Vale management from any accusations of bias or personal animus, I request the committee take lead oversight on this case. I will continue to provide all data and serve as the primary fact finder, but all official actions moving forward should be sanctioned and directed by the committee. I am attaching my initial findings, as well as a sworn affidavit regarding the physical assault that occurred this evening, for your review. I attach the case file and the formal complaint. This act insulates me. I am no longer an angry daughter. I am a compliant employee following protocol, a whistleblower against my own family. I am inviting scrutiny, making myself transparent. It's a move they will not expect. Phase 4. Escalation to external authorities. The foundation is laid. Now I bring in heavier firepower. The temporary restraining order I presented at the meeting was a preemptive strike, a legal shield I had the foresight to secure that very afternoon. I'd spent 30 minutes with a clerk at the Halcyon County Courthouse, presenting just enough preliminary evidence of financial irregularities and potential record destruction to get a judge to sign a standard 14-day preservation order. They thought they were calling a meeting to ambush me. They had no idea I was walking in with a tactical advantage. Now, I activate the next phase. I find the number for the county inspector's office, the division that handles homeowner association fraud. I leave a calm, detailed voicemail. My name is Rhea Calder. I am the head of compliance for Garrison Vale, the management company for Eden Park. I have uncovered substantial evidence of contract laundering, invoice fraud, and improper use of the community's reserve fund in potential violation of state law. I have a temporary court order in place and would like to schedule an immediate meeting to turn over my findings. Simultaneously, I draft a secure message through the online portal to the trust officer at the bank that holds the HOA's accounts. I attach a copy of the court order. As per the attached judicial order and my authority as an officer of the managing firm, I am requesting an immediate administrative freeze on any and all non-payroll disbursements from Eden Park HOA accounts exceeding $25,000 pending an investigation into fiduciary misconduct by the board. I have now cut off their access to the money, legally frozen the paper trail, and called in the cavalry. Phase 5. Human intelligence. Evidence is not just data, it's people. Over the next 48 hours, I move quietly through the neighborhood. I don't speak of my assault. I don't rally for support. I gather facts. My first stop is the home of an elderly woman, a quiet widow who was sitting 3 seats behind Carter Hume. Over a cup of tea, she insists on making me. I simply ask what she saw before the meeting. "Oh, that poor Mr. Hume looked so nervous," she says. "He shook Mr. Calder's hand and slipped a letter from his law office into his pocket. I thought it was odd." I ask her if she would be willing to state that in a signed document. She agrees. Next, I email a man who had previously lodged a complaint, one that was dismissed, about Vivian threatening him with a special assessment after he questioned the landscaping budget. I ask for a copy of his original complaint and any communications he had. He sends them within the hour. Finally, I visit one of the families who had been granted an inexplicable fine waiver for their non-compliant fence. I lay out the situation calmly, explaining that the waiver was likely not legitimate and could be revoked by a new board or a receiver. I offer them a chance to be on the right side of things. Frightened, they agree to provide a statement about the verbal promises Nolan made to them in exchange for their vote. 3 independent sources, 3 more nails in the coffin. Phase 6. Finalizing the kill chain. Late on the second night, fueled by coffee and cold fury, I assemble the final pieces. Using a corporate database I have access to at work, I run the Employer Identification Number, EIN, for Marigold Services. The Wyoming registration is a dead end, but the EIN is a federal marker. The system cross-references it. The EIN is registered to another entity, a shell company in Delaware, the other great haven of corporate secrecy. The name of the company is Lock Property Care, LLC. I lean back in my chair, a grim satisfaction washing over me. I open a simple presentation program. I create one slide. It's a flowchart, a box with Vivian Lock on the left. An arrow points to a box labeled E-Lock, the registered agent. An arrow points from that to Lock Property Care, LLC. An arrow from that points to Marigold Services. I draw one final arrow from Marigold Services to a series of scanned invoices, and from the invoices to a scanned copy of a Resident Advisory Panel Expenditure Approval Form, a committee that doesn't exist, and there, at the bottom, in clear, arrogant script, is the signature of the panel's sole approver, Nolan Calder. It is the entire conspiracy, the whole rotten family business, displayed in a single, undeniable chain of evidence. I print 10 copies. My work is done for the night. I walk into my bathroom and look in the mirror. The right side of my face is a grotesque bloom of purple, blue, and yellow. The cut on my cheekbone is a thin, angry red line. I carefully clean the wound with an antiseptic wipe, the sting a dull, distant sensation. I open a small, sterile bandage. I don't place it to hide the bruise. I place it directly over the cut, a clean white slash against the mottled darkness. It doesn't conceal the damage. It highlights it. It frames it. This bruise is no longer an injury. It is a uniform. It is a statement. And tomorrow, everyone will see it and know that the war has begun. Numbers do not have an agenda. They do not feel loyalty, or anger, or betrayal. They are the purest form of truth. And in the silent, early hours of the morning, surrounded by the cold blue light of my monitors, they are the only allies I need. The pain in my cheek has subsided to a dull, persistent ache, a physical reminder of the stakes. But here, in my makeshift command center, I feel no pain. I feel only the cold, clear thrill of the hunt. The unraveling has begun, and it is happening 1 decimal point at a time. It starts with the invoices. On my left monitor, I have the last 6 monthly statements from Marigold Services displayed in a grid. They were submitted as individual PDFs, but the numbers within them tell a story of profound laziness. For 6 consecutive months, the bill is identical, not similar, not close, identical, down to the last cent. Monthly groundskeeping package, $15,200 times. Lake chemical balancing, $7,500 hours. Irrigation system maintenance, $2,550.75. Total, $25,250.75. This is the cardinal sin of fraudulent billing, It's called copy-paste invoicing. Real work has variables. A rainstorm delays mowing. A broken sprinkler head requires a replacement part. Fuel prices fluctuate. No legitimate contractor bills the exact same amount for 6 months straight. This isn't an invoice. It's a subscription fee for a crime. It is the first and most arrogant thread. I pull the thread, and it leads me to the gate logs. According to the invoices, Marigold performed full service on the 2nd and 4th Tuesday of every month. I isolate those dates and cross-reference them with the footage from my own front-facing security camera, the one I installed with a perfect, unobstructed view of Birchway, the main artery of the community. The gate logs, as expected, show a Marigold truck entering at 8 a.m. on the dot on Tuesday, August 12th, and again on August 26th. The invoice for August reflects 2 full days of service, but my camera tells a different story. I scrub through the footage. On August 12th, at 8:02 a.m., a white Ford truck with the cheerful Marigold logo drives past my house. I watch it complete one circuit of the main road, and then, at 8:11 a.m., it drives back out of the main gate. The footage from August 26th is even more damning. The truck enters the gate and is never seen on my camera at all. They were ghosting. Entering the premises to trigger the log. Likely parking in a blind spot just inside the gate for a few hours, and billing for a full day of work that never happened. The numbers on the invoice were not just lazy, they were ghosts, phantoms of labor that never existed. Vivian must have felt some pressure after my initial inquiries, because a week before the meeting, she submitted 2 competing bids to my office to legitimize the Marigold contract, a gesture of transparency that was, in fact, an act of profound stupidity. I pull up the 3 bids from Marigold, Evergreen Turf Specialists, and Summit Landscaping, side by side. The letterheads are different, the contact information unique, but the amateur forger made a classic, fatal error. In the line item description for tree trimming, all 3 bids contain the exact same typo. Trimming of deciduous trees and shrubbery, not shrubbery, a small, insignificant mistake that no spell checker would catch. But when repeated across 3 documents from 3 supposedly separate companies, it is as conclusive as a DNA match. They were all created from the same template, on the same computer, by the same careless hand. The hand, I know, is Vivian's. The E-lock signature on the Marigold contract is her tell. I don't need a professional handwriting expert, not for this. I pull a high-resolution scan of the contract signature and open it in a simple photo editing program. Alongside it, I open an email from Vivian to the board, one where she signed her name with a stylus on a tablet. I isolate her signature and overlay it on top of E-lock. The transparency tool allows me to see both at once. They are a perfect match. The imperious, upward slant, the distinctive unbroken loop of the L into the O, the sharp, angry downstroke of the final E. It is her. She is E-lock. She is Marigold Services. With her identity confirmed, I move to the motive. The Reserve Fund, the Eden Park Reserve Study, conducted by a third-party engineering firm 3 years ago, is a dry but critical document. It's a financial life expectancy report for the community's shared assets. I have it open on my main screen. It explicitly recommends that 65% of the annual reserve contributions be allocated to capital infrastructure replacement, specifically roofing for the townhouses and repaving for the community roads. It is the fiscal responsible path. Beside it, I have the annual budgets Vivian prepared and pushed through her finance committee for the last 2 years. The numbers are a confession of gross negligence. She has been systematically underfunding the infrastructure accounts while allocating over 40% of the entire reserve budget to landscape and aesthetic improvements. She was starving the community's essential needs, its roofs, its roads, to feed her own phantom landscaping company. It's not just theft, it's sabotage, mortgaging the community's future for her present-day greed. And my father was her willing accomplice. I pull the signatory authorization cards from the HOA's bank. As expected, Vivian is a primary signatory, but there, Listed as a supplementary signatory with full authorization is Nolan Calder. How? A board member can't typically have check signing authority. I dig deeper into the board transition documents from when the previous chair stepped down, and I find it a special power of attorney drafted by a local notary. It grants Nolan, in his capacity as head of a newly created resident advisory panel, the power to co-sign any expenditure related to community maintenance. The document was drafted by Vivian's personal lawyer. It was signed by the outgoing chair on his very last day in the position, likely buried in a stack of other transition paperwork. Nolan wasn't just her cheerleader. He was the second key required to open the vault. The grand larceny is damning, but the petty corruption is what proves the conspiracy. Buried in a miscellaneous folder are scanned, handwritten notes, scraps of paper, not official forms. Please credit the account of Carter Hume for $2,500 for volunteer community beautification efforts. One reads, signed with Vivian's flourishing V. There is no record of what those efforts were. It's a handwritten receipt for a bribe, a fee paid for his loyalty and his vote, funded by his neighbors. The final piece of the puzzle is a personal attack, a clumsy attempt to implicate me. It's a set of meeting minutes from a budget workshop 3 months ago. I find my name listed. Rhea Calder seconded the motion to approve the preliminary landscaping budget. Motion passed unanimously. I stare at the sentence. It's a lie. I was at that meeting, but I remained silent, an observer. I never seconded anything. My heart beats faster, a cold anger rising. This is their endgame, to claim I was a party to it all along, but their arrogance is, once again, their undoing. I download the Word document version of the minutes from their shared drive. I don't even need to open it. I right-click the file icon. I select Properties. I click on the Details tab, and there it is. The digital ghost in the machine. Date created, September 26th. The meeting took place on September 5th. The document, the official record of the meeting, was created 3 weeks after the meeting happened. They didn't just amend the record, they fabricated it. The sun is beginning to cast a pale gray light through my window. My work here is done. For the next 3 hours, I assemble my findings. I write with the cold, dispassionate precision of an auditor. I do not use emotional language. I do not speak of family or betrayal, or the bruise on my face. I speak of numbers, of data, of metadata. I build my case, brick by brick, fact by irrefutable fact. Each piece of evidence is scanned, labeled as an exhibit, and linked within the document. The invoices, the screenshots of my security footage, the 3 forged bids, the signature overlay, the reserve study analysis, the bank authorization card, the handwritten bribe notes, the metadata from the fraudulent minutes. It becomes a 42-page report, a methodical, unassailable indictment of theft, fraud, and conspiracy. I write the final page, the culmination of all the numbers, all the lies. It is not a summary, it is a demand. In light of the overwhelming evidence of systemic financial mismanagement, fiduciary breach, self-dealing, and potential criminal fraud on the part of the current board of the Eden Park Homeowners Association, and the clear and present danger this poses to the community's financial solvency, it is hereby petitioned that the Halcyon County District Court take immediate action. We formally request the temporary dissolution of the current board and the appointment of an independent third-party receiver to assume control of all assets, records, and operations of the Eden Park HOA, pending a full forensic audit and potential criminal investigation. I print it out. The weight of the 42 pages in my hands feels real, solid. It is the weight of truth, and it is heavy enough to bring a whole house of cards crashing down. The Halcyon County District Court is a place where passions go to die. The courtroom is a symphony in beige and cheap wood veneer, a sterile box designed to drain the life and color from human conflict, reducing it to docket numbers and procedural motions. The air is thick and still, tasting of old paper and the faint, metallic tang of the heating system. It's a more imposing room than the Eden Park Community Center, with a raised dais for the judge and a formidable-looking seal of the state on the wall. but the oppressive, soul-crushing atmosphere is identical. It is a perfect venue for a public autopsy. A dozen or so Eden Park residents are scattered in the public gallery, their faces a mixture of grim curiosity and neighborhood anxiety. They are here to see the outcome of the drama that has been churning through their email chains and sidewalk conversations for the past 2 weeks. Vivian and my father enter as a unit, a tight, defensive formation. Vivian is dressed in a severe navy blue suit, an attempt at sober authority that only makes her look more brittle. Beside her is her lawyer, a man whose slicked back hair and slightly too shiny suit screams suburban real estate disputes, not felony fraud defense. My father trails a half step behind them, his face a carefully constructed mask of a concerned husband supporting his wronged wife. He has aged a decade in 2 weeks. He keeps his eyes fixed on the back of Vivian's head, deliberately creating a perimeter of vision that does not include the plaintiff's table, where I sit alone. He will not look at me. He cannot look at me. When the judge enters, a weary-looking woman named Judge Miller, the room rises and sits in a rustle of fabric. The proceedings begin. We are here to hear the petition of Rhea Calder for the appointment of a temporary receiver for the Eden Park Homeowners Association, the judge states, her voice flat and businesslike. Ms. Calder, you may begin. I walk to the lectern. My hands do not shake. The bruise on my cheek has faded to a pale, yellowish stain, a ghostly reminder I have chosen not to conceal with makeup. I have no lawyer beside me. I do not need one. I am not here to argue. I am here to present a report. Good morning, Your Honor, I begin, my voice amplified slightly by the microphone. My name is Rhea Calder. I am a homeowner in Eden Park and, for the purposes of this hearing, the petitioner. For the past 12 years, I have also been a compliance officer, currently head of compliance, for Garrison Vale Management, the contracted management firm for the association. I am here today to present evidence of systemic financial mismanagement, breach of fiduciary duty, and significant conflicts of interest on the part of the current board, which I believe necessitates the court's immediate intervention to protect the assets of the community. For the next 12 minutes, I speak. I do not raise my voice. I do not use adjectives like shocking or outrageous. I simply walk the judge through the executive summary of my 42-page report, copies of which are in front of her and the opposing counsel. My presentation is a timeline, a cold chronological sequence of events backed by evidence. I am a narrator for the numbers. Exhibit C, the vendor contract with Marigold Services. Exhibit D, the corporate registration for Marigold. Listing E, Locke, as the agent. Exhibit F, a comparative signature analysis. Exhibit H, the forged competitive bids, which you will note all contain the same unique typographical error in line item 7. When I finish my summary, I pause. Finally, Your Honor, to establish the board's operational conduct, I would like to play a short video clip. This is security footage from the evening of the special meeting on October 17th. The large monitor to the side of the courtroom, previously dark, flickers to life. The image is grainy, the angle slightly skewed, but the scene is unmistakable. It's the Eden Park community room. I see myself stand up. I see Vivian approach. There is no audio, which somehow makes it worse. It's a silent, violent pantomime. The screen shows Vivian's mouth moving, her face contorted in a sneer, and then the swing, the thick binder connecting with my face, my head snapping to the side. A collective gasp ripples through the public gallery. The judge's face is stone. She watches the clip play, then watches it again on a silent loop. Vivian's lawyer half stands, as if to object, but the judge waves him down without looking at him. "Thank you, Ms. Calder," the judge says, her eyes still on the looping video. She turns to Vivian's counsel. "Counselor, before you begin, do you have any response to what is depicted in this video?" The lawyer, flustered, clears his throat. "Your Honor, my client regrets the loss of decorum. It was a highly emotional meeting, a culmination of a very stressful family dynamic. There was significant verbal provocation." Judge Miller cuts him off, her voice suddenly like chipped ice. Counselor, let me be perfectly clear. The Halcyon County District Court is a place where passions go to die. The courtroom is a symphony in beige and cheap wood veneer, a sterile box designed to drain the life and color from human conflict, reducing it to docket numbers and procedural motions. The air is thick and still, tasting of old paper and the faint, metallic tang of the heating system. It's a more imposing room than the Eden Park Community Center, with a raised dais for the judge and a formidable-looking seal of the state on the wall. But the oppressive, soul-crushing atmosphere is identical. It is a perfect venue for a public autopsy. A dozen or so Eden Park residents are scattered in the public gallery, their faces a mixture of grim curiosity and neighborhood anxiety. They are here to see the outcome of the drama that has been churning through their email chains and sidewalk conversations for the past 2 weeks. Vivian and my father enter as a unit, a tight, defensive formation. Vivian is dressed in a severe navy blue suit, an attempt at sober authority that only makes her look more brittle. Beside her is her lawyer, a man whose slicked back hair and slightly too shiny suit scream suburban real estate disputes, not felony fraud defense. My father trails a half step behind them, his face a carefully constructed mask of a concerned husband supporting his wronged wife. He has aged a decade in 2 weeks. He keeps his eyes fixed on the back of Vivian's head, deliberately creating a perimeter of vision that does not include the plaintiff's table, where I sit alone. He will not look at me. He cannot look at me. When the judge enters, a weary-looking woman named Judge Miller, the room rises and sits in a rustle of fabric. The proceedings begin. We are here to hear the petition of Rhea Calder for the appointment of a temporary receiver for the Eden Park Homeowners Association. The judge states, her voice flat and businesslike. Ms. Calder, you may begin. I walk to the lectern. My hands do not shake. The bruise on my cheek has faded to a pale, yellowish stain, a ghostly reminder I have chosen not to conceal with makeup. I have no lawyer beside me. I do not need one. I am not here to argue. I am here to present a report. Good morning, Your Honor, I begin, my voice amplified slightly by the microphone, which emits a soft, low hum. My name is Rhea Calder. I am a homeowner in Eden Park, and for the purposes of this hearing, the petitioner. For the past 12 years, I have also been a compliance officer, currently head of compliance, for Garrison Vale Management, the contracted management firm for the association. I am here today to present evidence of systemic financial mismanagement, breach of fiduciary duty, and significant conflicts of interest on the part of the current board, which I believe necessitates the court's immediate intervention to protect the assets of the community. For the next 12 minutes, I speak. I do not raise my voice. I do not use adjectives like shocking or outrageous. I simply walk the judge through the executive summary of my 42-page report, copies of which are in front of her and the opposing counsel. My presentation is a timeline, a cold, chronological sequence of events backed by evidence. I am a narrator for the numbers. Exhibit C, the vendor contract with Marigold Services. Exhibit D, the corporate registration for Marigold, listing E. Locke as the agent. Exhibit F, a comparative signature analysis. Exhibit H, the forged competitive bids, which you will note all contain the same unique typographical error in line item 7. When I finish my summary, I pause. Finally, Your Honor, to establish the board's operational conduct, I would like to play a short video clip. This is security footage from the evening of the special meeting on October 17th. The large monitor to the side of the courtroom, previously dark, flickers to life. The image is grainy, the angle slightly skewed, but the scene is unmistakable. It's the Eden Park community room. I see myself stand up. I see Vivian approach. There is no audio, which somehow makes it worse. It's a silent, violent pantomime. The screen shows Vivian's mouth moving, her face contorted in a sneer, and then the swing, the thick binder connecting with my face, my head snapping to the side. A collective gasp ripples through the public gallery. The judge's face is stone. She watches the clip play, then watches it again on a silent loop. Vivian's lawyer half stands, as if to object, but the judge waves him down without looking at him. "Thank you, Ms. Calder," the judge says, her eyes still on the looping video. She turns to Vivian's counsel. "Counselor, before you begin, do you have any response to what is depicted in this video?" The lawyer, flustered, clears his throat. "Your Honor, my client regrets the loss of decorum. It was a highly emotional meeting, a culmination of a very stressful family dynamic. There was significant verbal provocation." Judge Miller cuts him off, her voice suddenly like chipped ice. "Counselor, let me be perfectly clear. This court does not recognize verbal provocation as a defense for battery. This was a public meeting, governed by bylaws and state law, not a family shouting match in a living room. The behavior on that screen is unacceptable in any civil forum. Proceed with a defense for the financial allegations, if you have one." The lawyer pales, his primary defense strategy vaporized. He shuffles his papers and launches into a weak, meandering argument about procedural oversights and the board's right to make expedient decisions. When he finishes, the judge looks back at me. "Ms. Calder, anything further?" "Yes, Your Honor. On the matter of the signatures, I place a document on the overhead projector. 2 signatures illuminate the screen. Exhibit K, on the left, Vivian Locke's signature from an official HOA document. On the right, the E. Locke signature from the Marigold Services contract. A third-party forensic analysis, included in my full report, found 17 points of congruency, concluding with over 99% certainty that they were authored by the same hand." I let the image hang in the air for a moment before switching off the projector. "I have no further evidence, but I have 3 witnesses I would like to call." The judge nods. "Call your first witness." "First, I call my direct superior from Garrison Vale Management, a stern, by-the-book man named Mr. Davies. He takes the stand and, in a flat monotone, confirms the company's position. Did the Eden Park HOA, under the financial guidance of Ms. Locke, submit the required 3 competitive bids for the landscaping contract?" I ask. "No, they did not," Davies replies. "Is this a violation of their management agreement with Garrison Vale?" "Yes, it is. The responsibility for sourcing and providing those bids rests solely with the HOA board." "Thank you." He is excused. His testimony is a clean, dispassionate blade that severs any argument that this was a simple mistake or a management company failure. It places the responsibility squarely on Vivian. Next, I call the 3 residents, one after another. They are not my allies. They are simply homeowners who saw what they saw. The elderly widow calmly recounts seeing Carter Hume slip the law firm's envelope into my father's pocket. The man who lodged the complaint provides the emails where Vivian threatened him with special assessments after he questioned the budget. The young couple nervously confirms that my father promised them their non-compliant fence fine would go away in exchange for their support at the meeting. Each testimony is a small, precise hammer blow, cracking the foundation of my father's and Vivian's defense. I see my father's hands, resting on his lap, clench into white-knuckled fists. When the last witness steps down, the room is silent. The air is thick with the weight of undisputed facts. Vivian's lawyer offers no cross-examination. There is nothing to ask. Judge Miller looks from me to Vivian, then to my father. She takes off her glasses and rubs the bridge of her nose. "I have heard enough," she says, her voice resonating with finality. "Based on the extensive and compelling evidence presented by the petitioner, this court finds that there is substantial cause to believe that the board of the Eden Park Homeowners Association has engaged in gross financial mismanagement, has breached its fiduciary duty to the community, and has acted in a manner of self-dealing that is detrimental to the homeowners it is meant to serve." She puts her glasses back on. Her gaze is like a physical weight. "Therefore, I am signing an immediate order with the following provisions. 1. The operating and reserve accounts of the Eden Park HOA are hereby frozen. 2. The current board of directors is temporarily dissolved, and I am appointing Mr. Albert Finney as an independent receiver, effective immediately. He will assume full control of all HOA assets and operations. 3. The receiver is directed to commission a full, independent forensic audit of the association's finances for the past 24 months. This court will await that report. A low murmur fills the room. Vivian looks as if she's been struck again. My father just stares into the middle distance, his face ashen. "This hearing is adjourned," the judge says. Striking her gavel once, the sound is like a gunshot. As the room begins to empty, a uniformed Halcyon County police officer approaches the plaintiff's table. He doesn't look at Vivian or my father. He walks directly to me. "Ma'am," he says, his voice low and professional. "My name is Officer Carden. My sergeant saw the footage. We're opening a criminal investigation into the assault. Would it be possible to get an official copy of that video, as well as a copy of your report for the DA's office to review regarding the financial matters?" I look past him and meet my father's eyes for the first time all day. There is no anger in them, no sadness, only a cold, hollow emptiness. He knows, in this moment, that this is no longer a family dispute. It's not even a lawsuit. I have just handed his wife, and by extension, him, over to the state. I nod to the officer. "Of course," I say, my voice steady. "I have a copy right here." I reach into my briefcase and pull out a flash drive. The torch has been passed. The day after the hearing, I am summoned to the Garrison Vale corporate headquarters, not to my own office, but to the top floor. A hushed, carpeted realm of polished wood and panoramic city views where the air is thin and the stakes are high. The emergency executive meeting is already in session. I walk into a boardroom filled with the company's senior leadership. Our CEO, a man named Marcus Thorne, sits at the head of the long, gleaming table. He is a man who values two things above all else: profit and plausible deniability. He does not ask me to sit. He gestures for me to stand before them, like a soldier giving an after-action report. The atmosphere is not celebratory. It is tense, charged, like the air after a lightning strike. The string is pulled taut. "Rhea," Marcus begins, his voice smooth and measured. "We have all reviewed the court's preliminary order and the summary of your report. Let me be the first to say that your diligence in this matter has been exemplary. You have demonstrated a commitment to rigid compliance that is a credit to this company." It is not a compliment. It is a carefully worded statement for the record. He is praising the outcome while distancing the company from the method. "However," he continues, steepling his fingers, "the situation has become untenable. The optics of our firm managing a community where the head of our compliance division is engaged in a public and aggressive legal battle with its board, a board comprised of her own family, is a liability we cannot afford. The public trust in our impartiality is paramount." I say nothing. I simply watch him. "Therefore, the executive committee has made two decisions. First, as of 9 a.m. this morning, Garrison Vale Management has invoked the termination clause in our contract with the Eden Park Homeowners Association, effective in 30 days. We are withdrawing our services." A ripple of surprise goes through the room. They are cutting the community loose, cauterizing the wound to save the limb. It's a clean, ruthless, corporate move. "Second," Marcus says, his eyes locking onto mine, "to avoid any further appearance of a conflict of interest while this matter proceeds through the legal system, we are placing you on mandatory, fully paid administrative leave, effective immediately. You will turn over your active case files to your deputy. We expect you to be fully available to assist the receiver and any law enforcement agencies, but you will do so as a private citizen, not as a representative of this firm. It is a suspension disguised as a vacation, a gilded cage. They are taking me off the board, removing their most effective piece. They are acknowledging my victory while simultaneously punishing me for the mess it created. But they miscalculate. They think this is a setback for me. They don't realize they have just handed me my greatest weapon: time, unfettered, unaccountable time. "I understand completely," I say, my voice a calm, even monotone. Thank you, Marcus. I turn and walk out of the room before they can say another word. The game is almost over. I can afford to sit out the final moves from the sidelines. Back in my townhouse, my corporate email has already been deactivated, but my personal inbox is where the next desperate move arrives. It's an email from Vivian, sent to the new court-appointed receiver and CCing a dozen homeowners she still believes are her allies. The subject line is pure, frantic denial, a complete and utter misunderstanding. The body of the email is a long, rambling screed about personal vendettas, a troubled stepdaughter's jealousy, and complicated paperwork that was misinterpreted. It's a pathetic, self-serving piece of fiction, but Vivian, in her haste and her arrogance, has made a fatal technical error. The explanation is not typed in the email itself. It's attached as a PDF document. A document she clearly typed in Microsoft Word and then converted. A document where she forgot to turn off the Track Changes feature. I download the PDF and open it, and there, in the right-hand margin, is the digital ghost of her creative process, a history of her lies. I can see the original, more honest phrases crossed out in red. Our preferred vendor, Marigold, is struck through, replaced by the most cost-effective vendor, Marigold. A sentence that once read, Nolan helped oversee the payments, is deleted entirely, and at the top of the comment log, a small, damning box of text. Author, Vivian Locke, last modified. Vivian Locke. She has sent her confession, complete with editorial notes, to the very man appointed to investigate her. I save a copy and forward it to the county inspector's office with a single line. For your records. Later that afternoon, my phone rings. The caller ID simply says, Dad, I let it ring 3 times before I answer. I say nothing. Rhea, he begins, his voice strained, tired. You need to stop this. Stop what? I ask, my voice devoid of warmth. All of it. The receiver, the police. This is out of control. Your mother always believed in keeping the peace, in forgiveness. She would have hated this, seeing the family torn apart. The invocation of my mother is a foul, desperate tactic. He is trying to wield my memory of her as a weapon against me. The man who replaced her with Vivian, who stood by and watched her legacy be tarnished, is now trying to use her as a shield, a hot white rage, an emotion I have kept locked down for weeks, flashes through me. Do not, I say, my voice low and shaking with a cold fury. Speak to me about my mother. My mother taught me the difference between right and wrong. She never, not once, told me that keeping the peace meant signing off on a thief stealing money from elderly neighbors to fund her sham company. The peace you're talking about is the peace of the graveyard, quiet, orderly, and rotten underneath. The line is silent for a long moment. I can hear his shallow breathing. You're destroying everything, he finally whispers. No, I reply, the ice returning to my voice. I'm just turning on the lights. You and Vivian are the ones who built a house out of kindling. I hang up the phone. The rain starts that afternoon, a cold, persistent drizzle that matches the mood of the neighborhood. From my window, I see a plain white van pull up in front of the community clubhouse. A man in a simple work coat gets out. It's the receiver, Mr. Finney. He walks to the main door and unlocks it. A few minutes later, he emerges holding a small, brass-colored plaque. I can read the engraved letters even from this distance. Chairperson, V. Locke. He doesn't handle it with any ceremony. He simply drops it into a cardboard box in the back of his van. The throne is officially vacant. In the days that follow, the old regime dissolves like sugar in the rain. The nightly gatherings at Carter Hume's garage cease. The garage door, once a fortress gate for their secret council, now remains open, revealing a perfectly ordinary suburban garage, a lawnmower, some garden tools, empty shelves. The conspiracy has been evicted. The members of the backyard team are suddenly invisible. Their curtains are drawn. They don't answer their doors. They have retreated. Their brief moment of perceived power exposed as a pathetic, cheap illusion. One morning, I see Carter Hume himself walking toward the clubhouse. He walks with his head down, his shoulders slumped. He's holding a single piece of paper, a check. He slips it through the mail slot on the front door, the slot now monitored by the receiver. He is paying his 18 months of overdue fees. He doesn't look around. He doesn't speak to anyone. He just pays his debt and walks away. A man reduced from a co-conspirator to just another homeowner. A week later, a new notice appears on the community bulletin board outside the clubhouse. It's a simple, photocopied flyer. Notice of special election. It reads in a bold, generic font. An election to form a new board of directors will be held in 4 weeks. It is a sign of life, of a community trying to heal itself. That evening, after dark, I walk to the bulletin board. The rain has stopped. In my hand, I have a flyer of my own, one I designed and printed myself. It is clean, professional, and printed on heavy cardstock. The headline is simple: Know Your Rights. How to request and read your HOA's financial records. Below, in clear, concise language, I explain the state laws that give every homeowner the right to inspect the books. I explain what a reserve study is, what a balance sheet should look like, how to spot red flags like single-source contracts and copy-paste billing. I take 4 thumbtacks and carefully post my notice directly beside the election flyer. Let them elect new leaders. That is their right. But I'm giving them the tools to ensure those leaders are held accountable. I am not just deposing a queen. I am arming the populace. I am leaving behind a shield, so no one else will ever have to take a hit for asking to see the numbers. The Eden Park community room is the same cheap, sterile box, but tonight it is transformed. It is not a place of apathy. It is a coliseum. The room is packed. A standing room-only crowd that spills out into the hallway. The air, once stale with the scent of old coffee, now crackles with a live electric current of anticipation. Every chair is filled. People line the walls, their arms crossed, their faces grim and determined. They are not here for a routine meeting. They are here for a public execution. Nearly everyone is holding a copy of the receiver's preliminary audit report. Some have printed it out, its pages stapled neatly at the corner. Others have it open on their phones or tablets, the cold blue light illuminating their faces. That document, a dense, 20-page summary of my own 42-page report, has circulated through the neighborhood like a virus, infecting every household with the truth. They have all seen the numbers. They know what was taken from them. Vivian is the first to arrive, but she does not make an entrance. She materializes by the main door, a ghost at her own funeral. She is dressed in a simple black dress, a flag of mourning for her own reign. The power suit is gone, the confident posture is gone, and her entourage, the backyard team, is gone. She stands alone, her back pressed against the wall as if seeking support from the drywall. Her eyes dart around the room, not with the arrogance of a ruler, but with the hunted paranoia of a cornered animal. The residents see her. Their eyes linger for a moment with a cold, unforgiving curiosity, and then they dismiss her, turning back to their conversations. She has already been rendered irrelevant. My father enters 5 minutes later, a solitary figure slipping through the crowded doorway. He is a man hollowed out, the politician's smile, the easy charm, the confident stride. All of it has been stripped away, leaving a stooped, gray-faced man in an ill-fitting suit. He doesn't work the room. He avoids eye contact, his gaze fixed on a patch of stained carpet as he finds an empty seat in the last row, as far from Vivian and as far from me as possible. He is an island of shame in a sea of quiet anger. The receiver, Mr. Finney, a calm, balding man with the serene air of an undertaker, calls the meeting to order. "We are here tonight for one purpose," he says, his voice flat and unemotional. "To vote on the recall of the former board and to elect a new one. But before we cast ballots, Ms. Calder has requested to say a few words." Every head turns to me. I walk to the lectern, the same one Vivian stood at when she called me obsessed. The microphone hums softly. I look out at the sea of faces, my neighbors. I'm not going to speak for long, I begin, my voice clear and steady. I just want to make one thing perfectly clear to everyone here. I am not a candidate for the new board. I have never wanted to be. My only goal in this was to see our community's money, your money, return to its rightful owners. That's it. I just wanted to turn the lights on. I nod to Mr. Finney and step away from the lectern, returning to my seat. A quiet, appreciative murmur ripples through the room. Mr. Finney steps back up to the microphone. Thank you, Ms. Calder. Before we proceed to the vote, as the court-appointed receiver, I am obligated to share the preliminary findings of the forensic audit. He puts on a pair of reading glasses. As of our initial report, we have identified $182,400 in payments made to the vendor Marigold Services, for which we can find no corresponding evidence of services rendered or materials provided. The number lands in the silent room with the force of a physical blow. $182,000. It is no longer an abstract accusation. It is a real, solid number, the cost of their betrayal. At that exact moment, as if on cue, the main doors of the community room swing open. Two uniformed Halcyon County police officers step inside. They are not the bored-looking security guards from the last meeting. These are real cops, their expressions professional and unreadable. One of them holds a folded document in his hand. They walk past the residents, their presence bringing a new, sharper tension to the room. They walk directly to the wall where Vivian is standing. Vivian Locke? The lead officer asks, his voice calm but firm. Vivian just stares at him, her face ashen. We have a warrant to search your residence at 415 Magnolia Drive, specifically any and all computer equipment, and a secondary warrant for the contents of a safe located in the garage of that property. This is the final, irreversible escalation. The moment the civil rot becomes a criminal cancer, a wave of panic finally breaks through Vivian's frozen composure. She pushes herself off the wall, a strangled gasp escaping her lips. Her instinct is to flee. She makes a dash for the side exit, a blind, clumsy rush. She doesn't see the microphone stand near the lectern. Her hip collides with it. The stand topples over, and the microphone hits the floor. The speakers erupt with a deafening, high-pitched shriek of feedback. The sound is a physical assault, an ugly, piercing electronic scream that fills every corner of the room. It is the exact, sound-for-sound echo of the moment she tried to silence me. The sound of her violence, now amplified for all to hear. Vivian freezes, her hand on the door, trapped in the feedback's electronic shriek. The residents stare, their faces hard. The officers move in calmly and flank her. The noise dies as one of them picks up the mic. The show is over. The vote is a swift, brutal formality. Mr. Finney calls for a show of hands on the recall. The result is a forest of arms. The motion to remove Vivian and her board passes. 8-1, one solitary hand, in the back of the room, remains down. I don't need to see whose it is. The election for the new chairperson is just as decisive. A woman is nominated, a single mother and a quiet but respected librarian who lives in one of the small townhouses by the lake. She is the anti-Vivian in every way. She wins unanimously. As the new chairperson is announced, a figure rises from the back row. It's my father. He stands there for a moment, unsteady, as if the weight of the air is too much for him. He begins, his voice thick, broken. I just want to say, I'm sorry. The words hang in the air. He says them to the room, to the floor, to the ceiling. But he does not look at me. His apology is a public performance of a private shame he cannot bring himself to face directly. I do not respond. I do not acknowledge him. His sorrow is his own burden to carry now. Instead, I stand and walk to the front table where the new chairperson is now tentatively sitting. I place a single typed sheet of paper in front of her. This is a formal motion, I say, my voice low, requesting that the receiver, with the court's permission, Develop a restitution plan that prioritizes the reimbursement of any illegal special assessments, with first priority given to our elderly and fixed-income residents. I am already focused on the next move, on the cleanup. His apology is irrelevant. My work here is done. I turn and walk towards the exit, the same one Vivian tried to escape through. As I pass the front table, the one that holds the official minute book, I pause. I reach into my pocket and pull out a single, sterile, adhesive bandage, still in its paper wrapper. I place it carefully on the corner of the thick, faux leather binder. The weapon she used against me. A small, white rectangle on a field of black. A final statement. A warning. A gift for the new chair. Just in case. The last hit is not a blow, but a lesson. The first check is written on a Tuesday morning. I am not in the room, but Mr. Finney, the receiver, described it to me later. He sits at the cheap laminate table in the now silent community room. The checkbook is from the new bank account he established. The paper a clean, neutral gray. He uses a black fountain pen, a personal affectation of his, a tool of deliberate finality. The check is not for a large amount, just a few $100s. It is a refund for an illegal special assessment levied by Vivian's board a year ago. The recipient is an 87-year-old widow who lives at the far end of the development, a woman who had to dip into her savings to pay it. Mr. Finney signs his name with a slow, careful flourish. The ink is dark against the pale gray paper. It is the first drop of rain after a long, devastating drought. It is the first tangible act of restoration. The first number that doesn't represent theft, but restitution. I do not go to the community room again. The day the new board is officially installed, I walk to the clubhouse and enter the small office. The new chairperson, the librarian, is there, tentatively arranging a stack of files. She looks up at me, a little intimidated, a little grateful. I don't say anything. I just place the 2 keys on the counter, the heavy brass key for the main door and the smaller silver key for the office. They make a soft, metallic sound as they land on the laminate. They are no longer my burden to carry. She nods, a silent understanding passing between us. I turn and walk out, and I do not look back at the room where it all happened. As I step out into the bright, clean afternoon, a figure detaches from the shadow of an oak tree. It's my father. He looks smaller, diminished, a man folded in on himself. He takes a hesitant step towards me, his hands twisting in front of him. His mouth opens, a pained, desperate expression on his face. He is about to speak. He is about to offer an explanation, an excuse, an apology, a word that can never be enough. I stop. I look at him, really look at him, this stranger who shares my DNA, and I do something I have never done before. I deny him his audience. I give him nothing, no anger, no tears, no forgiveness. I just shake my head. Once, a slow, slight, deliberate motion from left to right. It is a complete and final sentence. It says, no. It says, don't. It says, it's over. The words die in his throat. His mouth closes. He understands. There is nothing left to say. I walk past him, and he does not try to follow. I find myself at the lake, for 2 years. It had been a symbol of the community's managed decay. Its surface an unnaturally bright blue from the overdose of chemicals Vivian used to justify her phantom invoices. Now, it looks like a real lake. The water is a natural, healthy, deep green blue. Small ripples disturb the surface, created by a gentle, honest wind. The flimsy plastic sign that for months read, "Lake under maintenance," has been taken down. In its place is a simple, new wooden sign. Community Lake, a pair of ducks, real ones, paddle serenely near the shore. They were never here before. The ecosystem, like the community, is slowly beginning to heal itself. My phone vibrates in my pocket, a single, sharp buzz. I pull it out. It's an email. The sender is Marcus Thorne, the CEO of Garrison Vale. The subject line is one word: reinstatement. I open it. The message is just as brief, just as clinical as my own reports. Ria, The receiver's preliminary report has been reviewed by the board. Your actions have been found to be in complete alignment with corporate compliance protocols and ethical standards. There is no longer a conflict of interest. Your administrative leave is concluded. Welcome back to your position. Effective immediately. Good work. I stare at the words, good work, for a long time. It is the only praise I've received, and the only praise I need. It is a professional validation, clean and devoid of emotion. I close the email and put the phone back in my pocket. That night, I stand in front of my bathroom mirror. The harsh vanity light illuminates the last traces of Vivian's attack. The bruise is no longer a violent purple or an ugly green. It has faded to a faint, yellowish stain on the crest of my cheekbone, a ghost of the original impact. It looks like an old water stain on a map. I raise my phone and take one last picture of it. I label the photo "Case Closed" and move it to a secure, archived folder on my cloud drive. The evidence has become a memory. The weapon has become a scar. The last piece of the file has been put away. The door to the community clubhouse clicks shut behind me after I drop off the keys. A moment later, I hear the distinct, heavy sound of the deadbolt being thrown from the inside by the new chairperson. It is a sound of finality, a period at the end of a long and brutal chapter, the sound of a new lock on a door that was once left open for thieves. On my way home, I stop at a public trash can by the lake. I reach into my pocket and pull out the last adhesive bandage I've been carrying. I never needed it after that first night. I look at the small, white paper wrapper for a moment. Then I let it fall from my fingers into the darkness of the bin. I am done patching up wounds. There will be no more hitting. There will be no more need for bandages. The screen goes black. The funds were returned to the residents. Vivian Locke was prosecuted on charges of fraud and assault. I walked along the lake, and I did not look back. Thank you for listening to my story. I'd love to know where you're tuning in from. So please drop a comment below and let's connect and share our thoughts. If you enjoyed this, please subscribe to the channel, like the video, and consider giving your support by hitting the hype button to help this story be heard by more people.